Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to yet another podcast episode of the Dreadlabs podcast. In today's episode, I want to talk a little bit about my client work, about my favorite projects of 2023, about my dream projects, so stuff that I would still like to do as a freelance designer, maybe give a little bit of a backstory on how these projects came to be, how I found these clients or how these clients maybe found me. And of course, I would love to open up discussion about what your dream projects would be and whatever projects you did that you think might be interesting to talk about. So without any further ado, let's dive into this episode. So one thing that 2023 brought me was a lot of more client work, especially during the summer. It was a little bit quiet at Dreadlabs, and mainly because I think a lot more people during the summer aren't really on their computers that much, which results in less people being online, buying assets, watching YouTube videos and stuff like that. That's something that I've noticed in the past couple of years. So that's quite a kind of a usual thing. And during that time, it's important for me as a freelancer, if I still want to keep making money, of course, I need to do a lot of freelance work during that time. Luckily, I do have a couple of really amazing clients. And today I want to highlight some of those in order for you to check them out, maybe see the work that I did for them, and perhaps inspire you a little bit, or maybe give you an idea of, for example, if you're completely new in graphic design, how these projects work and how they turn out and stuff like that. So one that was really cool was Sunda Festival. If you're not familiar with Sunda Festival, they are basically one of the leading techno festivals and event organizations here in the Netherlands. They were doing techno parties before techno became like really popular. Because if you don't know, here in the Netherlands, I think ever since last year or something, techno became really popular. Mainly like the harder techno genres became really big, but even before that hype and before that craze, Sunda was already hosting a lot of really good and well-established techno parties here in the Netherlands. And they have a really loyal fan base, which is also something that I really respect and like about the organization. Because if you have a loyal fan base, that means that you're doing something well and that you're doing something for a community. Otherwise, this community wouldn't be starting and forming on its own. So that's something that I always admired about Sunda, even before I wasn't really into techno myself. I kind of recently got into techno music, I think. I started listening to some techno artists starting from 2019, 2020 or something. So I was a little bit before the hype, but I'm kind of a late bloomer, I guess, because some people have obviously been in the scene for over 5 years, maybe even over 10 or 20 years. Anyways, what Sunda did is they usually release a merchandise line. I think it's every year or every 2 years or something like that. But they were asking online who should be designing their next merchandise collection. From what I understood, some people were already thinking about me. And a cool thing is, a friend of mine, Lisa, she works for Sunda. She does production stuff for them. So during the festival, she works with Sunda to make everything go smoothly and stuff like that. And she also told them that it might be interesting to let me design it, since I do a lot of rave-related stuff. Of course, if you know me, if you know Dreadlabs, you know that I design a lot of rave flyers. That's probably one of my largest sources of inspiration, the late 90s, early 2000s, maybe even the late 80s, the flyer culture. That's something that I really like and I wish it would come back. I don't think it ever will come back, but what I really loved about that culture is that people would just hand you a flyer and then you would know where the next party would be, instead of going to Facebook or going to Instagram and stuff like that. Anyways, I digress a little bit, but that's just because I'm really passionate about rave flyers. Anyways, hearing this from Lisa, and also I think some of my followers or some people within Sunda were already hearing about me. I think someone who works at Sunda also saw some of my tutorial videos in the past, if I'm not mistaken. And this is how I got in touch with them. And Lisa asked me, like, should I tell them that you will be available? And I was like, yeah, that would be sick. I would love to work for them. And then we hopped on a call and we talked a little bit about our ideas. During that process, they were talking about some things that they liked, some things that I wouldn't like. We discussed a price up front, of course. That's also really important, because then they know what they will be paying you. And if you make extra hours, then they aren't having any surprises, so they don't have to pay double afterwards if it takes too long. and I already kind of know how much time it will take me to do this complete process. So I know that I can give a nice, clear estimate of how much it will cost so that it will benefit them. They wouldn't get any surprises or extra costs. And I do have a nice, good estimate on how long it will take me in order to make a fair amount of money from the time that I put into this project. So yeah, if you want to learn more about like why I don't really like hourly based pricing and like value based pricing, I do have a video on it. But for this project, we discussed a price and a time frame. And the first thing I started doing wasn't designing, I was making mood boards. The reason that I do that is because I think beforehand I want the people at Sunda and myself to know exactly what we're going to be designing before I actually start designing, because that takes a lot of time, of course, and creating a mood board doesn't really take that much time. Usually when I make my mood boards, I do a couple of pages, maybe 2 or 3, and what I try to do with this is I try to create extremes. For example, they were kind of afraid that the Ray flyers that I would be designing, because the idea was that we're going to do like a Ray flyer design on the back of the t-shirt kind of. They were afraid that my style would maybe be too dark in order to be on a Sunda t-shirt, because if it's too dark it might not sell enough, which is fair. So what I did was I searched for images on my mood board, and for myself I was already thinking, okay, this might be dark, this is probably way too dark, this is not too dark. And I asked the people at Sunda what do they like, but also what do they dislike. For example, they can do a checkbox next to the things that they like, and they can put a cross through the things that they don't like. And this gives me a good idea of what is off limits and what isn't off limits, and gives me a better perspective on what they consider to be too dark or not too dark. Anyways, after that, we also wanted to do a couple of sketches before I actually started designing and working out these designs on the t-shirt. I was thinking maybe we'll just do a couple of sketches and just see, okay, maybe even if they already look too dark on a sketch, they might not work at all. So I pitched 3 different designs on a couple of different colorways to them, because we didn't really discuss that yet. And I was like, okay, we can just do black and white t-shirts, but it might also be interesting if we do different colors. And then we hopped on another call to discuss the feedback that they had for the first 3 sketches, and they weren't too happy. They were really vocal about the stuff that they didn't like, but for me it actually helps because this gives me a clearer perspective on the things that they really don't want in their designs, and that leaves me with the stuff that I can leave and put in the designs. But they were really nice about it, and they were like, oh yeah, I hope that I don't offend you in any way. And I usually kind of like am completely fine with that, because that really helps more than just being positive about everything, even though you might not feel that way. So because I got this feedback, I really knew that I needed to do a wireframe based design as the main art piece. I also knew what kind of elements of the flyer I should leave out and which ones to keep in. And because of this, I sidetracked a little bit and I just made some main images to put on the t-shirts. So without the rest of the flyer, just for them to pick and choose 1 or 2 of them. They did, and that's when I started putting those 2 designs on a back of the t-shirt and adding those extra Ray flyer elements to them, which was really cool because this gave me 2 proposals. They chose 1 of those, and then it was just a matter of fine-tuning and deciding on a couple of colorways. And what I also think is really cool is during this whole design process, they sent me all of the colorways from the t-shirt that I made myself, which is not really a thing that every single client does. So I was really happy with that. I also got a couple of stickers and stuff like that. So that was actually a really nice sign of appreciation of everything that I did for Sunda. So a huge shout out to Sunda. A cool thing is that also the person who I had the most contact with at Sunda, Cedric, he is also a DJ, and I invited him to play for Dreadlabs music, which like happened a couple of months later. Sunda was finished in around May, I think, and Cedric played for Dreadlabs music in, I think, October, if I'm correct. Maybe September. But that was actually really fun because, we're still sometimes in touch about stuff. And what I do like about these kinds of projects is that it's not only a good business thing, but it's also it also feels like you're making friends along the way. So a huge shout out to Sunda Festival for letting me work on this project, and I hope I might be able to return to do more for them in the future. Then one of my other favorite projects that I got to do in 2023 was Seeing is Believing, and Seeing is Believing was probably, if you add everything up, the biggest project / client that I've ever worked for. So Seeing is Believing is the music label by DJ and producer Kirby. Kirby is one of the leading DJs, producers in the bass house scene, and I think he's also one of the most respected producers in that genre as well, because his way of production is just really unique and his sound is really recognizable, so that's really cool. I've started working for Kirby in 2020, I think. I did a couple of cover arts for him on Spinning Records and Musical Freedom Records, and around the summer of last year we started developing the visual identity of Seeing is Believing together with my intern Shores at the time. But this year is when they officially launched, had their first releases. I think in the first year we did 25 releases. We did 2 events in the Melkweg in Amsterdam. This was still back in 2022, but we also did website animations for them, as well as poster and flyer designs for Amsterdam Dance event. And there's also a lot of cool stuff coming up with Seeing is Believing. So if you are interested in Bass House, I would highly suggest following their Instagram and their SoundCloud and stuff like that, because I think with the way we're doing things, we're going to be one of the most well-oiled machines in Bass House music that's still about house music, if that makes sense. I really do feel that I'm working with a label that works out of passion for music instead of just generating streams and generating money. So that's really cool. But what I like most about this project is just that I have a lot to say in the creative direction, which is also really nice, where I have a lot of creative freedom, but also that it's just cool to see that almost everything that you see for this label, so the album covers, the animations, everything basically, all the print works, you can just see that I know that I made all of those things. A lot of stuff also together with my intern still, but it's cool to see that this whole project was almost entirely visualized by Dreadlabs. That's just something that's really cool to see, and I'm really proud of that. What was also really cool is that their first party that they hosted in March this year, I went there with some of my friends, and I think someone recognized me. Yeah, there was a guy there who recognized me as Tom from Dreadlabs. So we had a little chat, and he wanted to take a picture with me, which was also really fun. And it's just cool to see that this is the kind of people that you want in your scene and as your fans or as your community, because that shows dedication. And I'm not sure if this guy knew who I was thanks to my tutorials or because I was the designer for Kirby and Seeing is Believing, but it's just cool to see all of those things come together and, you know, bring people together out of the same passion and love for either music or design. So yeah, a huge shout out to Kirby and his team for letting me be part of the Seeing is Believing crew. Another thing that I would like to talk about is my dream projects. If you saw a video of mine a couple of weeks ago, I talked about wanting to design a packaging for either a soda or a beverage of some sorts. That's still probably on the top of my list because I just think it would be really cool to have a beer can or a soda can with my own design on it. So if you're watching this and you might have a beer brand or something like that, don't hesitate to reach out because I would love to work with you. That goes for a lot of stuff as well. One thing that's also on the top of my list is art direction for a vinyl. So an album with multiple visual outings, but mostly like I would love to do a printed version of an album cover. I have some friends that have done these, and whether it's for an interesting artist or not, it's just cool to see that like you're doing more than just the front of the album cover, if that makes sense. So that's something that I really still like to do. If I ever get enough budget to release an album myself, I would probably still do it on vinyl, but it's just really, really expensive. Anyways, this kind of goes into something bigger, I guess, because most of the things that I want to design still aren't digital. And I think most of the things that graphic designers make nowadays stay on the computer or stay on the internet. And Jesse Nyberg actually has a reel or a video about it, and he suggests that you just should print your work so that you can just watch it and have it in the physical world. That just really helps with feeling like, I guess, feeling that your work is still out there, and gives you the opportunity to be more proud of your work, if that makes sense. And that's also why I want to take on projects that end up being in the physical world, whether it be packaging or an album cover design or maybe some posters. I just do love that. And I do work worldwide, and I don't really care about time zones and stuff like that. So if you are interested in having me design for you, just let me know. Send me an email, send me a DM on Instagram, and we can see whatever is possible. I should probably also start cool emailing and stuff like that, because I do not do that enough. But it's actually cool. Like what I was thinking about is doing like live podcasts and stuff, or live talking while I am doing that kind of stuff, because it just helps me talk to other people, other creatives, and while I'm doing some stuff. Maybe not even live stream it on YouTube, just do it on my Discord server or something like that. But yeah, just block an hour of my week doing cold emails for companies I do want to work for, or products I do want to design or something like that, and just go on the Discord server and talk to other people there that might just want to do the same thing. And if you have any questions, you can just talk to your mic like, hey, how do you just address these people, or how do you type out a cold email, blah, blah, blah. We can just discuss that there. If that is something that you will be interested in, let me know down in the comments or on Discord or whatever. And just let's see if we can make that happen, because that actually would be, I think that would work very well, because there might be 3,000 people in the Discord server on Dreadlabs. We're from all kinds of different countries in the world. And if we just send emails to local areas and local companies, no one's getting in each other's way, I think, which is also positive. But yeah, this episode is more of a laid back kind of thing, because this will be released around the end of December. So I think this is also maybe the last piece of content that will go up in 2023. So with that being said, I just want to thank you for being part of the Dreadlabs community, even if it's just the first video or podcast you listen to. I do have a lot of content out there to offer if that's the case. So yeah, consider checking out my channel. But for the people who have been here this year, who are just joined this year, people who have been around for years, I just want to thank you for being a part of this community, because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be able to do this. And this is probably still the most beautiful thing that I ever made in my life, Dreadlabs. Just because I was able to bring so many creatives together, teach so many people different things, that just makes me really, really happy. So thank you for being a part of it. I wish you the best of luck in 2024. I hope all of your dreams and all of your resolutions will come through. I'm gonna party my ass off on Sunday. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next year. With all of that being said, this is Tom from Dreadlabs tuning out. Thank you so much for listening to this episode, and hopefully see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.